Oh, hello, Internet. I'm Mark Olsen for the Los Angeles Times. Many of you may be furiously making your way through the program announcement for the 2019 Sundance Film Festival. And to help you in making your way through that document, I'm joined here today by the director of the festival, John Cooper, and director of programming, Kim Yutani. Now, Kim, this is your first year as director of programming at the festival. What was the biggest change for you in taking on that new role?
Well, the biggest change for me was the workload, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a steep learning curve in having this job as director of programming. But it was, it was a challenge, but it was also really great because I felt like I learned so much and I continue to learn, so.
And John, what would you hope that audiences to take away from the program this year?
I hope they take, I want them to be entertained, of course. I always like that notion of if you step into any film that you see kind of what we're about. There's a bit of Sundance in that too. When I talk about that, I'm talking about like independence and sort of that notion of you're seeing something a little different than you might be used to.
Because Kim, I know it's always a little awkward when journalists like me try to ask programmers like you about the sort of themes that have emerged from the program. But in particular, you had a record number of submissions this year to the festival. As you were going through those films and you were making the selections that would become the program that we have now, what jumped out at you? Like, what do you feel like is on filmmakers' minds this year?
Well, we've come up with a few things this year, but I think for me, I feel like across the board, these films are telling stories with authenticity. There's a real thread of looking for the truth and finding the truth in these films, and I think it's always, as you say, it's hard to narrow it down to certain themes because that's not how we're programming.
And it's fresh for us too. We are just finishing the program, so we are just almost seeing the themes come up as well. One thing I think we talked about yesterday was the whole notion of empowerment, even in comedies and in drama, and especially in documentaries, but that sort of feeling of finding empowerment in some way, and a lot of the character studies. I think that is a theme. Maybe it's on a lot of people's minds right now. Maybe I think we're in a world where a lot of people don't feel, unempowered to change climate change. All the problems seem big, and I think there's notions of that. And lots of films about people that are very empowered too. So it's also a lot of inspiration comes out of the program.
I know, Kim, I think a lot of people maybe don't really understand how the programming process works. And I know there's some new faces on the programming team at Sundance this year besides your new role. And so tell me a little bit just about how it works. Like, what is some of the part of the process of putting the selection together?
Well, we have 14 programmers altogether.
We argue.
it involves a lot of arguments, a lot of, a lot of the time as programmers, we are sitting by ourselves in rooms watching movies. And then we get together and we discuss them and we argue for many hours straight. And somehow each year we end up with a great program because I feel like we have a team of amazing people that we work with. Everybody has their expertise. Everybody, comes from a different background or a different place and how they view films. And just to have that diversity in the room, I think creates a robust and diverse and interesting program.
That's really one of the first things Kim had to do coming onto the job was look at the programming staff, and we did some new hires and reshifting. So there's a mixture of a lot of the old, not the old, but the people who've been with us for a while, mixed in with some new faces, and I think the outcome feels very good because of that.
And now this year the festival you've kind of increased your collaboration with Stacy Smith and her team at USC to be more transparent in the data coming out of the festival as far as representation and diversity, in particular both in the submissions and then even in what's just been put out today, like what some of the demographic breakdowns of filmmakers are. You've been more specific than you have in the past. John, what do you think is the goal of that? What do you hope that people will learn from having those kind of statistics?
I think it's really about awareness. I think until you get numbers connected with awareness, I think there's sometimes misconceptions that are a little maybe more optimistic than they should be to create real change. And that's why I like the numbers from these studies and how you slice and dice. So we're also going to be looking at the numbers from what we received as well, submissions. I think that's going to come out later. And this is really from the Institute, the Sundance Institute, which is the mothership of even the Sundance Film Festival. We're really dedicated to this. It's one of our pillars of what we're working on. So.
And Kim, yeah.
No, I also think that it's so much of what we talk about in the programming room is part of the public discourse too, around parity and representation, and just to be more transparent about that information, I think is really useful for everybody.
And I know there's often a lot of emphasis placed on the U.S. dramatic, the U.S. documentary competitions, but Kim, I know you have a real passion for the world cinema programs in the festival. And for people who maybe find those some of the more challenging sections of the festival, how would you sort of encourage people to like take the chance on some of those movies in the world dramatic and the world documentary competitions?
Well, international film has always been a passion of mine, and when I first started at Sundance, I really wanted to elevate the international selection, and along with the help of some of my colleagues, Heidi Zwicker and John Nine, Caroline Labresco, we all have been just working so hard on creating great relationships over the years, and I feel like this is the year that things have finally paid off. Like, our international selection is great. It's bragging a little bit, but I feel like we're in a position where we can brag. I think the World Dramatic Competition this year in particular is strong because it's a combination of brand new voices, but also people who might be known on the international film circuit, but maybe don't have the audience in the U.S. And to be able to bring those filmmakers and those films to Sundance is really gratifying.
Because John, are you ever frustrated at all when you all
Yes.
are you all believe in the movies that you're showing, and then when you have programs like maybe like the world programs that don't get the kind of attention from media that maybe you would hope, like what do you, is that difficult to know that you're showing great films but people just aren't kind of like finding them?
A little bit. It's an ongoing challenge for sure, but we work on that all the time. We do, we do a lot of, I do a lot of, even with the industry, leading people to who I think is talented out there. We do a lot of that with the Institute. We're actually starting something new this year called the Talent Forum, which is right in the middle of the festival, where a lot of the other people that we support through the year, through our fellowships, through our workshops, through our labs, where they're all going to be there, and a lot of the international filmmakers as well, where we connect them with the industry too. So it's not just always that film. If we think of their careers too, I think, especially on the world cinema front.
Because tell me a little bit more about just some of the programs and things that happen during the festival that aren't necessarily just the showing of films. I mean, there's panel discussions, there's other things that happen.
Right.
Is it important to you that the festival be this sort of like all-encompassing, holistic event?
I do. I think a lot of what we talk about, like creating dialogue and discussion, and I think that is important. I think that's why a lot of people come too. I think they come to Sundance, just from the patrons I talk, not just to be turned on by all the new discovery of new talent, but also new ideas, and it seems to be just a place for good exchange and a lot of healthy dialogue around stuff. And the films promote that. I mean, there's certain films too that's why they were made. That's what drove the filmmaker to make those films, to create dialogue. More and more too from the documentary world, as the documentary community has embraced a lot of more entertainment value in there, keeping you engaged. It's not just factual data any longer. It's like how you get people engaged, sometimes almost all the way to action.
Because Kim, the 2018 program, as it's been coming out throughout the year, has been a tremendous year at the box office for Sundance movies, from the documentary Won't You Be My Neighbor to the horror movie Hereditary. Does that put any additional pressure on as you're putting together the 2019 slate?
Well, we're only as good as the films are. But I think that when you see the success of films the commercial success of films that you don't necessarily imagine would break through, I think that's a really exciting thing for us. It's like great feedback for us to see a film like Sorry to Bother You just explode last summer or this past summer. Was interesting because we saw that film, we're like, this is a crazy movie. This is like, and just to see a wider audience embrace that film, it feels like that people are ready for new ideas and are willing to go to a place that they maybe they haven't been able to go.
You're telling the people that make movies, the people that finance movies and bigger executive producers and things, that there's an appetite out there. You're sort of proving it, like each film that plays well. I'm sure there's lots of people out there that start going, oh, we got to get a documentary on the slate now, and well, can't do Mr. Rogers, so let's look at Captain Kangaroo. I don't know, but how that works, but it does, it perpetuates, taking risk, and that's really what is exciting to us.
And now, maybe we can spend just a couple minutes talking about some of the specific sections of the festival. I mean, the first one, of course, the U.S. Dramatic Competition. There's so many exciting looking titles there, including one that jumps right at me is one called Ms. Purple, directed by Justin Chon, who had a film at the festival in the next section a couple years back. Tell me a little bit about his new movie.
Well, this is a film set in LA, in Koreatown. It's about two siblings who are more estranged, who are brought together because they discovered their father is dying. And Justin has such a special voice. I think that this is a story that only he could tell. And he does it with really great style and real emotion, too. I think that if you saw Gook, that you will see that this is an advancement for him.
And then I think another title is going to jump right off the page at people is Honeyboy, which was written by and stars Shia LaBeouf in a story based on his own relationship to his own father.
Yeah, and I haven't got into it. I don't know all the backstory, but it's interesting because he's playing his father in the movie, which I think must have been the craziest thing for him to do. But it's such an engaging film, and you get such insight into an irregular father-son, actually in Hollywood relationship, and it's just, I don't know, it was mesmerizing to me.
And then from the U.S. documentary competition, Kim, tell me a little bit about American Factory.
You talk about this.
It's about a Dayton, Ohio, and you have the old, I think it's a GM plant, right, factory, and they relaunch it with a glass manufacturer from China. So it's a Chinese company that's come into Ohio to rejuvenate so there's lots of the community. So there's lots of really good energy coming in, but then all the little pitfalls they find with these cultures colliding. It's really intricate and fun, and I think there's just something that's really the way you look at our culture as Americans mixed with the Chinese. It's kind of fun too, just the things that they run up against.
And also there's an archival documentary on the Apollo 11 mission?
Yes, this is a mesmerizing one. It's, as you said, it's completely constructed of archival footage and some footage that has been unearthed, and it is from beginning to end. You are completely transported back into time, and it's an accomplished one.
Yeah, a lot of the control room, a lot of the worry, you see all those people. I love that you have all those people with one idea. So it's not so much about rah America getting to the moon first. It's about people believing in an idea, and it's very inspiring for that.
And then to jump onto the premieres section, and that often is where some of the kind of like the starriest, most buzzy titles from the festival come from. This year in particular, there's one title called Late Night that was written by Mindy Kaling, and it stars Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling. Tell me a little bit about that movie.
This is a really fun one. It actually takes on very serious issues of the moment. I think deals with gender in a very sophisticated but also comedic way. Obviously, if it's written by Mindy Kaling, and Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling are so much fun to watch on screen. I think that I feel like this is going to really delight audiences.
And then also the drama The Report, directed by Scott Z. Burns. Tell me a little about that. I think that stars Adam Driver?
Adam Driver and Annette Bening as Diane Feinstein. So she's kind of amazing too. It's really the true story of the torture report that was, which I suppose made over like 5 years before it came out, and the guy who just kept on it, and the people that supported him, and really telling the story of some of the not so pretty side of America at that point. And so it's true, and it's you know, I think it's very moving.
And then
Journalists like you.
And then I'm always such a fan of the next section. That's really been a place where I've made some terrific discoveries at the festival over the few years that you've
You have too, and you've helped those films a lot. Thank you for that.
And this year there's a title there, Give Me Liberty, that I think looks really exciting. Kim, what can you say about that movie?
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be one of the next breakouts. It's a film just told with such, as I said before, authenticity. These are characters you don't normally get to see on screen. From scene to scene, you're not sure what's going to happen next. But at its core, there's a real humanity to this, and I think it's a beautiful film.
And then before we wrap up, I just want to be sure to ask one title that I've heard come up a few times is actually in the World Cinema Dramatic section, the Japanese title, We Are Little Zombies. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Well, thank you for asking about that one.
There's a backstory too.
There's a little backstory. The director, Makoto Nagahisa, had a short film at the festival in 2017. He won the Grand Jury Prize. The title is, And So We Put Goldfish in the Pool. And then he made his feature, We Are Little Zombies, and we discovered that he had a great passion for Sundance, and that we're the only place he wanted to premiere his film. So we're happy to hear that, and we're even happier to discover that the film is amazing. It's really inventive, it's very funny, it's very sweet, and has the oddest but catchiest song that you will hear in a movie.
Well, terrific. Well, I can't wait, and I'm sure everyone...
the playoff music. We should have brought it in with that.
And I'm sure everyone will be very excited to come to the festival in Utah in January.
Hope so.
So, John, Kim, thank you so much for being here today. And so that will sign off with that. For the LA Times, I'm Mark Olsen.